If you've been waiting to see a criminal conviction in the wake of the financial crisis, this was a good week for you. Rajaratnam, the hedge fund titan who was accused of insider trading, was found guilty Wednesday of conspiracy and securities fraud. Some of his information was obtained from a Goldman Sachs board member, providing yet another headache for the investment firm itself dealing with an ongoing investigation. Matt Taibbi is a contributing editor at Rolling Stone. He built a case against Goldman Sachs long before anyone in Congress started sniffing around. Matt, Carl Levin's Senate committee says it's got enough evidence to move forward with criminal charges against Goldman Sachs. Our own Elliot Spitzer says in your latest article that based on that, he'd be dropping subpoenas by the truckloads, but the Justice Department still seems reluctant to move forward. Assuming that the viewers today have not read the article, lay out your case in short form.
Well, the Levin report is a 650-page document, and to put that in as short a hand as I can possibly make it, what they're saying is that late in 2006, Goldman Sachs realized that they were sitting on a time bomb of toxic mortgage assets, that they conspired to unload those assets on their clients and then bet against them at the same time. And then later on, the report also sort of lays out that in the process of investigating this issue, the Senate questioned Goldman. They also had testimony in Congress. And it lays out that they believe that Goldman lied about some of these activities.
Lying to Congress.
Right.
All right, let's bring in Megan McArdle. She's the business and economics editor at The Atlantic. Megan, you've read the articles. Matt laid out a convincing case.
I think it's really tough. These cases are incredibly difficult to bring and win. If you notice, Elliot Spitzer didn't in fact secure a lot of convictions despite all the subpoenas he laid down. What he did was he got settlements from firms, and in some cases it wasn't really clear that the firms had done anything wrong. The problem is that a firm that's dependent on capital for its lifeblood, once you drop a subpoena, they kind of have to settle a deal, even if they didn't do anything, because otherwise their supply.
And Goldman has done that elsewhere. They've come up with a settlement. But Matt, you've been on this case long before a lot of people thought. I mean, one might think you've got some kind of an issue with Goldman, but you definitely think they've done something wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think how anybody could read this report and not see that Goldman definitely conspired to sell assets that it itself did not believe in on unsuspecting clients. I mean, one of the great emails in this entire document came after they sold $100 million worth of a deal called Timberwolf on an Australian hedge fund, and they're celebrating afterwards, and one guy says, "We found a white elephant, a unicorn, and a flying pig all at the same time." In other words, we found the ultimate sucker. And this kind of stuff is all throughout the report.
Now, Megan, while regular people were actually affected by these toxic assets that Goldman was dealing in, because they might have been in their pension funds or it might have been their city that invested in them and lost money, generally speaking, the other side of the deal, one of these Goldman deals, was always an institutional investor. Why, let me just put the argument forward, why wouldn't those institutional investors have done the necessary homework to understand that Goldman was selling them junk?
Well, I think that the fair argument is that these investments are incredibly complicated and it's very hard to know what happened. But the fact is that we generally assume that an institutional investor like a pension fund or a hedge fund has the intelligence, the know-how, and the motivation to figure out what's going on the other side. And so we don't offer them the same protections that we offer
we can probably assume that that's not true anymore, right? I mean, now I think we probably learned that it seems that they don't.
If I could just jump in there, Ali, there's definitely a legal standard that requires an investment bank like Goldman Sachs to disclose adverse elements to the deal. Like, for instance, that they had a $2 billion short position against the same stuff.
Okay, so let's spell that out. Let's spell that out. You're saying that they had a legal obligation to tell somebody they were selling an investment to that they had a $2 billion bet against that investment.
If I could actually also jump in here.
Let me jump in just quickly. Goldman actually in that deal even said affirmatively that their interests were aligned with the client because they had a $6 million stake in that same deal. But they didn't disclose that they had a $2 billion bet against the deal. That's the kind of thing that went on.
Look, inherently, someone who is selling you an asset is going short that asset, right? They are not owning it anymore, and you presume that there's a reason for that.
Well,
markets are made by people betting one way or the other.
If you're buying a car from someone, I'm not sure that makes sense for an investment firm, though.
In 2009, a street vendor from northeastern China stabbed 2 city management officers to death when they tried to stop his business. Last week, a court upheld the vendor's death sentence, but many have voiced support for the street vendor online. That's because China's street management officers, known as Chengguan, are notorious for mistreating citizens. Many believe the vendor was only exercising self-defense and should be spared the death sentence.
Last Monday, a court in China's northeastern Liaoning province upheld the death sentence of a street vendor. Xia Junfeng was accused of murder after he stabbed 2 city management officers to death in 2009. The officers, known as Chengguan, were trying to stop his street vending business. The case has been the center of controversy. Xia's lawyer and family say he was defending himself when a group of Chengguan attacked him.
When they arrested us, we were beaten by a group of them. There were people watching on the side. The police didn't take any witness statements. Locals were also harassed by police and did not dare to come forth as witnesses. My family will keep pursuing this case. He cannot be wrongly accused.
Monday's court decision affirmed an earlier ruling that Xia's actions were not self-defense, and the judge upheld the death sentence. But online, Xia has received overwhelming support. Many see the case as another example of the much-hated Chengguan officers mistreating vulnerable citizens. Chengguans are notorious in China for using violence to remove unregistered vendors from city streets. Some have died at the hands of these officers. In response, there's been increasing reports of street vendors resorting to violence to defend themselves. The public often becomes more incensed when these cases go to trial, because many see the Chinese regime's opaque legal system as favoring those in power. Xia supporters have started an online fundraiser to help him fight the death sentence when it goes to review by the Chinese regime Supreme Court.
Hello everyone, welcome to Global Government News. Today is Tuesday, May 17th, 2011, and I'm Darko. This is my website, www.ggnonline.com. That's ggnonline.com. I just posted a poll up here. You might want to check it out. It's based off the recent Supreme Court's decision. It says here, do you support a citizen's right to resist unlawful police entry? You have either yes, no, maybe you're not sure. And if you'd like to follow me via e-blogger or just blogger, you can go over here. It's not popping up right now, but it will when you go in there. Also, you can follow me on Facebook here. I'm getting more and more people follow me on Facebook, and Global Government News, their little group on Facebook is starting to grow as well. So I thank you for participating on that. Okay, also, yeah, I just want to say that my YouTube page is ddarko2012 for newcomers. And yeah, I usually start out with the economy here, so let's go. Wall Street hit by economic blues. Traders' eyes bounce as the Dow and the S&P 500 fell for a third day on Tuesday after disappointing figures from Wal-Mart and Hewlett-Packard, although a late rebound suggests investors may be looking for a short-term bounce. This is Dow Jones sheds 68 points as HP sinks 7%. Economic data add to a downbeat tone, but blue chips ends well off. And it says here US stocks tumbled for a third day in a row as weak economic data and negative outlook for HP heightened fears about a slowdown in the global economic recovery. That's right, people are buying less PCs. It says markets turn lower as manufacturing report fuels worries. So it says markets turn lower as investors spooked by weak U.S. economic data ditched assets that have value tied to a robust recovery. Then the euro gains, but seen susceptible to Greek debt. Then commodities still dropping, but recently they've kind of edged up and then they've gone back down. You can look at the chart right there. But we have Brent crude here at $109 a barrel at 99 cents, so it's going down 85 cents. Heating oil is up, natural gas up, and gasoline futures were up. And going down here to agricultural commodities, we have cocoa looking like it's going down a lot, $26 and $14. Coffee up $2 and $7.50. Actually, corn was $7.50. Sorry, cotton up $3.89. Then wheat up $27. Sugar up. And moving down here to precious metals, we have copper at $405, up $5.15. So significant increase for copper. And gold, 100-ounce futures, $1,487. So a tad bit under $1,500, up $7.10 though, so that's good. And silver at $34.15, up 66 cents. Gold down for a third day on weak economic data. Then oil falls on weak economic data, demand worries, and high gas prices, saying fewer trips to stores hurt Walmart and Lowe's. Americans living paycheck to paycheck are looking at the gas gauge before they run their errands, and that's hurting big retail chains such as Walmart stores. Oh, poor Walmart. Sorry about that. Sorry that I have to have my car on neutral and coast down a hill so I can save gas, and while I'm at a red light or a train, turn my car off. I'm so sorry. But it says here, BP Conoco scrap planned $35 billion Alaska pipeline, and they say, what? Oh, because of weakened customer demand. I don't really buy that. It's probably because environmentalism, or environmentalists, sorry. And it says here, China's yuan weakens against U.S. dollar on Tuesday. The Chinese currency renminbi or the yuan Tuesday weakened against the U.S. dollar as the central party rate of the yuan was set at 6.51. Then the EU thanks China for support of ailing Eurozone. Visiting European Council Herman Van Rompuy, the unelected president, said in Beijing on Monday that he appreciated China's help in maintaining the stability of the euro. China's ambassador to the EU has said Beijing was considering buying more debt after investing billions of euros in Portuguese and Greek bonds. Then we have Portugal has second largest inflation in Eurozone, and the UK gives 4.2 billion pounds to Portugal bailout. Moving on, we have financial repression coming to America, says El-Erian, says the co-CEO of the world's largest bond fund has warned America that it faces a combination of higher inflation, austerity, and financial repression over the coming years as policymakers grapple with the impact of the financial crisis or takeover, says here, and the subsequent policy response. So, not good news. It's pretty much what it is. It's a restructuring of the economy. It's your standard of living going down, being lowered systematically by design, and you just live with it. And they call it austerity. It says here, UK pledges to cut carbon emissions in half by 2025, and that's a pretty big deal. That's a very big deal. Government rejects $40 price for carbon. It says the federal government has rejected a $40 a ton starting price for carbon, but the Greens, whose parliamentary vote is crucial, say the figure is in the right ballpark. That's coming out of Australia. Obama's administration to honor green schools that teach environmental literacy. In other words, the fraudulent theory of global warming that Al Gore promotes, and junk science, right? That's pretty much what it is, and eugenics. So yeah, when I wanted to just correct myself there too. When I said it was environmentalists that probably help stop the pipeline, it's just people that don't want to see the wildlife, that area pillaged by these big companies. So, but I do still believe that overall environmentalism and that movement is funded by eugenicists. It says here, SPDB ADB in partnership to reduce emissions. So a program was launched on Monday in partnership with Asian Development Bank to provide 300 million yuan, or $46 million, in credits to support financing of energy-efficient buildings in China. Then Woolworths AGL executives look forward to low-carbon economy. Well, of course they do, right? I already talked about that. It's going to get rid of their competition. It's going to make it harder for little guys to try to start up a business and compete with them. So of course big businesses are for cap and trade and carbon tax and green economy. Quarter of households predicted to turn off heating, and this is all part of this, cutting down CO2 emissions and price hikes, and that rising fuel bills may force a quarter of homes to turn off their heating at some point next winter, and they pretty much already have the last winter too. And there's people freezing in China due to their cuts, and of course down in Texas you have power outages in the winter, this last winter, over Obama's green policy. It says here, and coal policy, China faces power shortage on decreased thermal power supply, rising coal prices. So, and then we have Trust slams carbon tax ahead of rally. Says here, a tax on carbon won't work because it won't lower the temperatures of the globe, says National Party member Warren Truss. Then we have commentary, EU's aviation carbon control aims at emission reduction or just passage of money. And that's what it is. It's a redistribution of wealth. I've covered that in my last video and in many videos, basically from an individual from the IPCC that sits on the board, actually admitted that the whole goal of the carbon trade scheme was for redistribution of wealth. It says the money collected under the name of carbon emission regulation is not used for global carbon emission reduction, but goes to the EU pocket instead. That's right. It's going to fund this global government. That's the whole damn purpose. They just have to find a reason. It doesn't really matter whether it's a real reason or logical reason. It's just some reason. Usually they're going to use emotions and fear, and then they'll get it and they'll slam it through finally. And then they'll have their tax to fund their world government. Inflation rate leaps to 4.5%, and it says here the consumer price index rate of inflation increased to a higher than expected 4.5% in April from 4% in March. You can join me in the next video. This is GGN, and I'm Darko. Thank you.